I should have known this would happen. I should have checked the room list as soon as I received it, but I was so busy with work and packing that I didn't even think about it. Now, here I am, standing in front of the door to my hotel room, and I know exactly who will be on the other side. I just can't believe it's him. I slide my key card into the slot and open the door, stepping inside. Sure enough, he is sitting on one of the beds, flipping through a magazine as if he owned the place. He looks up as I enter and narrows his blue eyes as he watches me. "Emily," he says with a strained voice. "What are you doing here?" I close the door behind me and drop my suitcase on the floor. "I could ask you the same thing," I say. "I'm here for the conference." "What's your excuse?" He stands up and looks at me intently. "I'm here for the conference too. What I want to know is why you're in my room." I roll my eyes. "Your room? This is my room. Look." Unexpected roommates. I take out my phone and hand it to him, showing the reservation confirmation on the screen. He doesn't even look at it before pulling out his own phone and shoving it in my face. "See? My reservation. Same room number." I snatch his phone from him and compare the details. Indeed, room 305 appears in both of our confirmations. "Incredible," I murmur, handing the phone back to him. "This hotel must have booked us twice." Lucas crosses his arms over his chest and his jaw clenches in that infuriatingly stubborn way of his. "And now what? Are you just going to leave?" I laugh, a short, bitter sound. "Leave? Why should I leave? I came first." He comes closer, eyes blazing. "And I'm not going anywhere either. I have as much right to be here as you do." We stood there, inches apart, staring at each other like two cats ready to attack. The tension is so thick you could cut it with a knife. "You were always impossible," I say. "And you always had to have the last word," he replies. My phone rings, breaking the charged silence. I look at the screen and see Sarah's name. With a sigh, I respond. "Unexpected roommates." "Hello, Sarah." "Emily, how is the hotel?" I look at Lucas, who is still looking at me with those piercing blue eyes. "It's complicated," I say slowly. Lucas rolls his eyes, grabs his own phone and dials furiously. "Sarah," he says into the receiver, "we have a problem." There is a pause as Sarah processes this new information. "Oh, no," he finally says. "Are you both in the same room?" "Yes," we say in unison, our voices heavy with frustration. Sarah sighs deeply. "Look, guys. The hotel is full because of the conference. There are no more rooms available tonight." I can practically hear her rubbing her temples on the other end of the line. "You'll have to make do until tomorrow when they can sort this out." Lucas and I exchanged a look of mutual exasperation. "Okay," he says reluctantly. But this is not over. I hang up and throw my phone on the bed, running a hand through my hair in frustration. "We'll have to survive one night," I say through clenched teeth. Lucas nods briefly and begins to unpack his suitcase with abrupt, angry movements. Unexpected roommates. I do the same, trying to ignore the way my hands shake with pent-up anger. The room seems even smaller now that we're both moving around in it, bumping into each other every few seconds. "Careful," I snap as he nearly knocks me to the ground with his elbow. "Maybe if you weren't standing in the middle of everything," he replies. We continue like this for what seems like an eternity until finally, we are both settled in our respective spaces, me in one bed, him in the other. The silence between us is heavy and uncomfortable. Just as I'm about to suggest some ground rules for our uneasy truce, there's a loud knock on the door. We both froze and turned to look at each other. "Are you waiting for someone?" Lucas asks cautiously. "No," I respond with my heart pounding in my chest. Another blow, stronger this time. Without thinking, I head towards the door and throw it open. There is someone I never expected to see again, a face from my past that gives me chills. Before I can react or say anything, they walk in and close the door behind them with a sinister smile. Unexpected roommates. "Good night," he says in a firm but hurried voice. "I'm sorry to bother you, but we have an emergency situation." Lucas and I exchanged confused looks. "What kind of emergency?" I ask with a tone of frustration in my voice. The employee clears his throat. "Due to unforeseen circumstances, we need to occupy one of your beds." My eyes widen in disbelief. "You've got to be kidding me." Lucas advances with a tense posture. "What type of emergency requires occupying a bed?" The employee's expression remains firm. It's urgent and non-negotiable. "We need the bed immediately." I feel my frustration overflowing. This is ridiculous. We're already forced to share this small room. Now you want to take one of our beds? Lucas clenches his jaw as he stares at the staff member. "We need an explanation." The employee shakes his head. "I'm sorry, but I can't reveal more details. It's a matter of hotel policy and security." Unexpected roommates. Lucas and I exchange another look, silently acknowledging our situation. His gaze softens a little and I can see his reluctant acceptance mirrored in mine. "It's okay," Lucas says through clenched teeth. "Take the bed." The employee nods briefly and signals to someone outside the door. Two more hotel employees enter and begin to dismantle one of the beds with demonstrated efficiency. I stand there, arms crossed, watching them remove the pieces of bed frame and mattress. The room seems even narrower now, the remaining bed imposing itself on the small space. As the last piece of the bed is removed, the staff member turns to us and says, "Thank you for your cooperation. We will do our best to fix this as soon as possible." With that, he leaves, closing the door behind him. Lucas and I stood in the now even smaller room, our animosity boiling just beneath the surface. "This is incredible," I murmur softly. Lucas runs a hand through his hair, clearly trying to control his temper. "Yeah, well, it's not like we have a choice." At that moment, someone knocks on the door again. This time, softer, almost hesitant. I open it and find Sarah standing there, eyes wide with worry. "Hello," he says quietly as he enters. I'd heard about the confusion and came as soon as I could. Unexpected roommates. She looks around the room and immediately senses the heightened tension between Lucas and me. "What happened?" she asks, staring at us from side to side. "They took away one of our beds," Lucas says flatly. Sarah's eyes widened even more. "What? Why?" "It's an emergency," I say with a shrug. "They haven't told us anything else." Sarah sighs deeply and rubs her temples. "This is a nightmare." "You're telling me," Lucas murmurs. We all stand there in awkward silence for a moment before Sarah speaks again. "Look," he says soothingly, "let's try to get through tonight. We'll think of something tomorrow." Lucas nods reluctantly, and I can see the exhaustion in his eyes mirroring mine. "It's okay," he says quietly. Sarah looks at us both sympathetically before heading towards the door. "I'll get back to you first thing tomorrow morning." As she leaves, I sink into the remaining bed, feeling completely defeated. Lucas sits on the edge next to me, and his shoulder brushes mine ever so slightly. For a moment, neither of them speaks. We just sat there in shared silence, each lost in our own thoughts about how we ended up here together again after all these years. Suddenly, someone knocks on the door again. Unexpected roommates. "Congratulations on the trouble," he says, placing the bottle on the table. Lucas scoffs and crosses his arms. "Champagne won't solve our problem." I glare at him, but grab the bottle anyway, my frustration boiling over. With a sharp turn, I open it. The cork flies across the room and hits the wall with a thud. The manager quickly apologizes, sensing the tension in the room. I pour 3 glasses, my hands shaking slightly as I hand one to Lucas and one to Sarah. "For surviving the night," Sarah says, trying to lighten the mood with a weak smile. Reluctantly, I raise my glass and look Lucas in the eyes. His expression is unreadable, but I can sense the simmering resentment between us. We clink our glasses, the sound high-pitched and uncomfortable in the confined space. We drink in silence, each sip doing little to ease the tension. Unexpected roommates. The champagne bubbles tickle my nose, but they don't lift my spirits. Lucas stares at his glass as if it contained all the answers to our problem. Sarah shifts uncomfortably on her feet, clearly feeling out of place. So, he finally says, breaking the silence, "What's our plan for tomorrow?" Lucas shrugs. Hopefully they'll sort out this mess and give us separate rooms. I nod my head in agreement. That's all we can hope for. The room now seems even smaller, with the three of them crammed into it. The single bed looms large in my peripheral vision, a constant reminder of our uncomfortable situation. I take another sip of champagne, trying to focus on something other than Lucas's presence at my side. Sarah looks at her watch. I should go back to my room. Try to get some rest, you too. She gives us both a sympathetic look before heading towards the door. Good night, he says softly before walking out into the hallway. Unexpected roommates. As soon as she leaves, Lucas gets up and starts walking around the room. This is ridiculous, he murmurs. How did we end up here? I stare at him for a moment before answering. It's just one night. We'll get through it. He stops walking and looks at me with eyes full of frustration. You always make it sound so simple. I put my glass on the table and stood up. Because it's simple. We just have to survive until morning. He shakes his head and runs a hand through his hair. You don't understand, do you? It's not just about tonight. I cross my arms over my chest. And what is it about? Before he can answer, someone knocks on the door again. We both froze and exchanged wary glances. What now? I mutter under my breath as I head towards the door. I cautiously open it and find another member of the hotel staff standing there with an embarrassed expression.